David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another ink review. Today I have for you count them, four new inks from the latest season of Colorverse inks. For Colorverse, this is season 7, and they are calling this one Eye on the Universe. Colorverse inks are always something rather cool and interesting, and what I have for you today is no different. Thanks go out to the good folks at Luxury Brands. They are the US distributor for Colorverse, and were nice enough to send the inks that you will see today over for review. This season is made up of 6 different sets of 2 inks. Each set has a larger 65 milliliter bottle of an ink, which is typically either standard or sheening, and then there's a smaller 15 milliliter bottle, which is typically shimmering, or in the Colorverse vernacular, glistening. Each of the inks in this series have space-related themes. There is Hubble with HST. Hubble is a light red and HST is a darker blue-gray. Then we have SM1 with CoStar. SM1 is a rich blue with a fair amount of sheen, and CoStar is a healthy gray. There's Extreme Deep Field, which is a deep blue with plenty of sheen, with NGC 1850, which is a slightly lighter blue with heavy shimmer. Then we have Pillars of Creation, which is a saturated purple with a lighter green and yellow sheen. And that is paired with Mystic Mountain, which is a lighter shimmering blue. Then there is Crab Nebula, which is a deep green with hints of purple, and Horsehead Nebula, which is a glittery purplish pink. And finally, there is Hippocamp, which is a lighter blue with the lighter beige of Comet SL9. Now, typically I would go into an explanation of the meanings of all of the names, but we don't want to be here for 20 minutes talking about names. You want to see some ink. I have 2 of these sets to show you today in detail, and in order to do so, please join me over here at camera 2. Okay, the 2 sets that I have for you today are the Extreme Deep Field with NGC 1850. NGC actually stands for New General Catalog, which is a catalog of nebula and clusters of stars. Then we have the Pillars of Creation and Mystic Mountain. Colorverse is a company based out of South Korea, and one of the amazing things about the company was how they hit the market running. They really haven't changed their packaging or marketing much from day one, and right off the bat they had fantastic packaging and an excellent product. So let's go ahead and do a little unboxing here because it's just very cool in my opinion. So yes, here on the outside, it says the 2 inks that we have. We have the Pillars of Creation, and then we have the Mystic Mountain, which is a glistening ink. And when you open it up, it is all space themed inside. You can see here, and then there's Colorverse, and then you open it up, and there's even some more space theme here. Some little cautions over here, like don't use for purposes other than writing, and store out of reach of children, and do not eat. Hopefully that is the ink, not the children. Then we have season 7, which is the Eye on the Universe, and it has information about all of the inks. Then something cool that they offer in here. Let's go ahead and open this up. There is a little tissue just so you can wipe up some of the ink. And then also here inside the package, let's just get this all out. There is a little pen stand here that you can put together in a little circle and you can use it to hold a pen. There is a bookmark. And then there's a number of stickers here, which are nice, especially if you're putting these on ink samples, that you could have a little sticker on the ink sample. And these are the samples. They're basically the stickers for all of the inks in the set. And then you can see here that, again, we have a space theme in here. And you take this out, and the 2 bottles of ink are nestled in here, and we can take them out. And then even underneath the ink, you can see that there is more space theme. And here are the 2 bottles. First of all, I really like kind of the teardrop shape of these bottles. This is the larger 65 milliliter bottle, and then this is the smaller one. And the smaller one is just really cute as well. You can see this is a glistening ink, and you can kind of see how it gathers there at the bottom. You want to make sure that you shake that up before you do it, and then you can see there's that it's all mixed up in there. And but then if you leave it sitting for a while, then it'll settle at the bottom again. The Pillars of Creation is a famous photograph taken by the Hubble Space Telescope of what are called elephant trunks of interstellar gas and dust in the Eagle Nebula, around 7,000 light years from Earth. Mystic Mountain is another photograph taken by Hubble. This is located within the Carina Nebula, and these pillars of gas and dust hold newborn stars. Okay, let's take a look at what these 4 inks look like. There is the Pillars of Creation, and then there is the Mystic Mountain. Then we have the Extreme Deep Field and the NGC 1850. In regard to some color comparisons for the Pillars of Creation, I have some purples that match it. Something like the Kiwi Ink Tray Colory Purple has a little bit of sheen. It doesn't have as much sheen as the Pillars of Creation, which has quite a bit. Diamine Purple Rain has a fair amount of sheen. Then there's something like Lamy Dark Lilac, which is a little bit lighter on the purple and really doesn't have much sheen. And then the same goes for Cross Violet, which is a deeper purple, but really doesn't have any sheen. Okay, this is what the ink looks like on some 52-gram Tomoe River paper. This is the Pillars of Creation. You could see when you get a heavier application in here. This is some Q-tip, and then this is a smear, and these are some drops. And when you get the drops, you can see there's a ton of sheen on there, especially when I move this around. Then beneath there, we have the Mystic Mountain, where you can see that there's a little bit of shading to it. There's not a ton of shade, but there is a lot of shimmer. And the shimmer really, or the glistening as they call it, can really be seen here in the droplets. Then below that, we have the Extreme Dark Field, which has a heavy amount of sheen to it. And you can see there's just a heavy amount of sheen, it's a dark, kind of almost dark turquoise blue with a purplish sheen to it. And then finally, we have kind of another dark turquoise, which is the NGC 1850, and that one has a heavy amount of shimmer to it. In regard to bleed through, now these drips, I put a heavy amount of ink on there, so that's going to drip through. But for the most part, with the heavy application that I put on here, it didn't behave too bad in regard to the in regard to ghosting. So just to take a look at one of these inks in depth, I'm going to take a look at the Pillars of Creation, which of the 4 is my favorite one. Here at the top, I am using this 3.8 millimeter Pilot Parallel, which is a really nice pen if you'd like to get some line variation or using that for calligraphy. Even it makes my handwriting look good, which is pretty special. It's fairly saturated, so even with numerous passes, it doesn't get that much darker. This is Rhodia 80-gram paper, and again, I'd say the ghosting and bleed is low. There's that very tiny amount in here, but this is a very heavy application here. I'd say the shade is a bit on the low side because it is rather saturated, and the shade is medium to high. I would say that it's high if you're putting a heavier application, but just on regular writing, it's more on the medium side. So for the pens, I decided to use all red pens, or pens that were mostly red. And the first one is the Visconti Homo Sapiens Magma, which I think is a really nice offering in the Homo Sapiens line. And I think the red on here looks really sharp. And this one has an extra fine nib, which is one of my few extra fine nibs that I have, but I really enjoy it. So we have the Visconti Homo Sapiens Magma, and this is extra fine. Then next up, we have a pen from Wancher, which is one of their Urushi Dream Pens. And this one has a 14 karat gold nib on it that is very pleasant, which is one of the Wancher in-house nibs, which are very nice. So this is the Wancher Dream Pen. We'll say Urushi. And this is a very nice medium. And finally, we have a pen from Leonardo, and that is the Momento Zero in red coral. And while I don't have a lot of stubs in my collection, I really enjoyed this one. So we have the Leonardo Momento Zero. And this one is a 1.1 stub. Okay, let's take a look at some writing samples. I said that the name, The Pillars of Creation, is based on a phrase used by Charles Spurgeon in a famous sermon. Then in regard to the medium nib, I said the pillars are comprised of cool molecular hydrogen and dust that are being eroded by photoevaporation from ultraviolet light. And finally, for the 1.1 stub, I said here that it is believed the pillars were destroyed 6,000 years ago. As I mentioned earlier, the pillars are roughly 7,000 light years away from Earth, so even though it is believed the pillars are destroyed, we won't be able to see it for another 1,000 years. So we have that to look forward to. I've already put an alarm on my phone to remind me in the year 3021. I really don't want to miss that. So I'd said here that the flow is medium on this particular ink. In regard to drying time, for extra fine, it was almost dry within 5 seconds. A little bit longer, between 10 to 15 seconds for the medium. And then in regard to a water test, now this ink doesn't profess itself to be waterproof, but as we're letting that sit there for a second, let's go ahead and take a look at some chromatography for all 4 of the inks that I have. I really like the chromatography on these inks, especially the second one, the Mystic Mountain, that really separates into some interesting colors. I just always like seeing this and see how the colors break apart for each individual ink. Okay, this is what the 4 of them look like. That's the Pillars of Creation. So you can see it's a pretty heavy purple with the sheen there. And then here was the Mystic Mountain. You can see here that the shimmer stays at the bottom, and then the gradient of colors comes up here. For the Extreme Deep Field, you can see it's a very heavy black with just a hint of blue to it. And then for the NGC 1850, again, you can see it's almost more of a gray, and then it has a little bit of green and turquoise and blue in there as well. Okay, let's wipe this off. Let's just dab it. And as I mentioned, it doesn't profess to be a waterproof ink, and it doesn't necessarily hold up that well under some water, so you want to be careful with it. Colorverse inks are available from a wide variety of retailers, and each set sells for $36. While it is not the cheapest ink out there on the market, taking everything into consideration, the packaging, the bottles, the themes, and the quality ink itself. If you don't already have some Colorverse inks in your collection, whether it's season 7 or any of their previous seasons, I highly recommend checking them out at a retailer of your choice. Okay, until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.